Hey everybody, Jeppy here, and recently Agent 20 has been exposing the worst fears of various agents on the Valorant protocol. Well, so far it's been every agent that apprehended her on the strike team in Istanbul. We see KO's worst fear is losing his best friend Brimstone, Neon's is likely her losing control of her powers or the fear of what her powers are capable of. Breach fears being imprisoned exactly how pretty much his entire family was, and Cypher seems to be his fear of having all eyes on him, surveillancing and reporting everything he does and all his secrets, kind of like exactly what he does. Well, all this got me wondering, what would the rest of the agent's worst fears be on the protocol? So I dug deep into every agent's lore to see what would be the one thing they would fear the most. Let's get right into it. But do you want to know what I fear the most? I fear that this 12% subscribe to unsubscribe ratio will stay this way till the end of time. It haunts me in my dreams. So please, let's get that sad number higher so I stop having nightmares about it, and join the Discord server while you're at it too. All right, so the first agent I want to talk about is Omen. I recently asked chat in a stream here on YouTube, and we pretty much came up with this. I think Omen's biggest fear would be either never being able to revert himself back into a human, or him never regaining all of his memories he had when he was a human. We had people suggesting the worst fear he has is killing people, but I don't think that's right, because oddly enough, he kind of seems like he almost enjoys killing, or at least scaring people before he does. So I think that's out of the question.
I will rip the light from them.
The next agent I want to explore is Reyna. Now, when I was writing this script, I had a very hard time narrowing down what her worst fear would be. Would it be a possible scenario where Radiants are suppressed on Earth and looked down upon as inferior? Would it be the fears of her ever dying? But I think the one thing that scares her to her core is the possibility of never seeing Lucia again. We got some breaking news the other day when we learned that Lucia, Reyna's little sister, is likely very much still alive. Quote, "Yet none hold the same place in your heart as Lucia, your own blood, the one life you may not be strong enough to save." End quote. Keyword there, may, which sounds like it's present tense. So Lucia is likely still alive. Is she still being experimented on by the Kingdom and Viper? Well, we don't know. But if it is something that the blackmailer explicitly mentioned to Reyna in that message, it may just be Reyna's darkest fear after all. The next agent I want to talk about is Brimstone. So in the Die For You music video, we already see what one of Brim's weaknesses are. That he shoulders too much work and stress onto himself and needs to learn how to rely on his teammates more instead of himself. But I don't think that's going to be his darkest fear. I think the only thing it can be is the fear of him losing everyone underneath him on the Valorant protocol. He is very close to the majority of the agents on the VP and would be absolutely devastated if any of them lost their lives, or every member of the VP for that matter. He would most definitely be overrun with guilt and the feeling of failure if that scenario were to happen. Now let's talk about Sage. So just like Brim, we caught a glimpse of what her major weakness is in the Die For You music video. With Sage's, it was a little more confusing, but I believe it was the fact that Sage dedicated herself on saving literally everyone she possibly can, and whenever that doesn't work out and someone loses a life, she is mortified because of that. But unlike Brimstone, I actually do think that what we saw in that music video is truly what I think her darkest fear is. Sage is quite literally all about healing people's wounds and giving people extra chances in life. If she was unable to perform those tasks anymore, I think she would be terrified that she wouldn't be able to help anyone anymore, unlike anything a modern doctor can do. We already saw how much this damaged her when she was unable to restore Omen to his human self. Imagine how she'd feel if she couldn't save anyone anymore. Let's talk about Jett now. I think the blackmailer said it best in this dossier. Quote, "Sun Wuhan, always on the move. Anything to keep you running. You ran after the restaurant was all but destroyed. A freak storm, they called it. How unusual. You ran after Venice. Your face was everywhere. Enemy of the world. A dangerous radiant. Those who knew you were horrified, disgusted even, ashamed. You claim you were innocent, that it wasn't you. Perhaps you even believe it, but can you really outrun what people think of you?" End quote. From the dossier. Perfectly said. Jett is an extremely outgoing person with a very warm personality. I feel like she revolves around human interaction and cares what people think about her. I think her darkest fear would be if her friends family, and the world saw her as a terrible person, someone she actually isn't. And well, I guess in a way she already lived her worst fear. As the blackmailer said, anyone who knew her thought of her as a monster. I think Phoenix's is pretty easy if you ask me. Phoenix likes to be the center of attention and quite literally shine bright amongst a crowd. He looks for peer validation and does everything in a flashy manner. I think Phoenix's darkest fear is to feel like no one likes him, loves him, or he loses his relevancy, which is fair enough, as I'm pretty sure everyone has a fear of not being liked or loved. But I thought since Phoenix prides himself on heroics like that, I think that would be the one thing that pains him the most if he were to lose it. Next up is Killjoy. Now, unlike Phoenix, which was so easy for me, I actually struggled a lot with KJ, but after quite a while of thinking, it just kind of hit me. Duh, she would fear most that someone would surpass her in engineering devices, so much so that Killjoy's tech would become useless against this new technology. She prides herself on her intelligence and ability to solve so many problems with her brain and engineering skills. If she were no longer looked upon as the smart girl who you would have to rely on to get a really nice gadget, then she would probably be very upset if she lost her niche that people love her and also kind of hate her for. What do you guys think about that? Anything else you think that like Killjoy would fear more? Let me know. Let's now hit up Viper next. Now, I bet some people think that Viper wouldn't really fear anything considering how ruthless she is, but I think loneliness is the thing she fears the most. We already know she lives in a very lonesome life in the Twitter takeover series, staying up all night, not being able to sleep, doing everything pretty much alone. Some people will look at this and think of that as she just enjoys being alone and likes her alone time, but I actually think that's the thing that pains her the most. But she's been doing it for so long that she doesn't know how to open up to people anymore. My boy Yoru's darkest fear has to be probably something along the lines of having someone he cares about getting hurt or end up dying. Again, the blackmailer did an amazing job prying into Yoru saying this, but I think it's true. I think Yoru puts on this loner, anti-friendship or loving personality just because of the fact he loves to protect people being attacked by a quote-unquote bully, if you will. Most of the fights he gets into is to protect someone getting attacked. I think that he fears that if he were to truly love or care about someone, that one of his enemies would use that as leverage to hurt Yoru. Hence why he comes across as the person who doesn't care about others, so no one gets hurt because of him. Up next is Astra. Now, I think Astra's is pretty simple. It has to be something along the lines of like her inability to communicate or control with the cosmos anymore. She always says how she does all these astral things and needs to make sure anything the VP does doesn't interfere with space or realities. So unless anyone else can think of something better for Astra, that's like all I got. So what does Reyes have as a deep, dark fear? Well, there isn't much negativity in her life to kind of go off of to kind of lead us in that direction that she's scared of. She actually enjoys stealing and being a criminal, so maybe it could be that if she got caught. Nah, I think it might be if the kingdom comes back in full force into her hometown and she can't do anything to stop it. She absolutely loves the colors and culture of her city, so if that was all taken away and turned into another kingdom infestation, well, that might just be the worst fear for her. That leaves us with Sky. It's a really easy one if you ask me. I think the total and utter annihilation of the environment would be her darkest fear. Everything about her is protecting and sustaining nature. So if that was destroyed by any means, well, that would definitely be the worst thing she would fear. But what do you guys think? Do you think I missed anything about the agents that would be more heartbreaking? If it happened to them, let me know below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe notifications if you're new. Now, with all that being said, Jeppy out.